Hey guys, and welcome back to the 52-week project. As you can see by this terrible yellow wall behind me, I am back in Sydney or near Sydney for a little while. So I'm finally back from my overseas trip and I've stopped traveling, which is a bit of a shame, but I am happy to be home, and I'm pretty excited to be doing this video actually at the moment because it is more of a review video, and it's going to be a quarterly review video. So pretty much I've sectioned off my 52 weeks into quarters, and every quarter I'm going to talk about my work and how it's progressed over the 12-13 weeks roughly that I'm going to go through. So I have been pretty happy with my progress so far. I think I've still got a long way to go with what I'm doing with this project and how I want my work to look potentially before the end of the year. I think that I still need to branch out a little bit more and do things a little bit more outside of my comfort zone. I think that's the one thing I'm wanting to do in the next quarter, hopefully. It's really difficult at the moment because I want to do more studio photography, and I really want to focus on that. I really want to focus on beauty photography. I think that's a field that I'm really enjoying at the moment, and I really like doing that. So I'd love to do that, but I'm finding it a little bit difficult for where I'm positioned currently. I'm 2 hours from the nearest city centre, which is obviously Sydney. So it does make it a little bit difficult when I'm trying to get models or professional models to shoot with, because they won't come down this far. Unfortunately, they won't sort of travel 2 hours away, which is understandable. So it's usually left up to me to go up to Sydney, and to actually rent a studio in Sydney is ridiculous. Like, I think the last time I looked was probably about $600 for a full day on average. So it's very expensive to do, and it's really out of my price range, to be perfectly honest. And that's where I'm kind of struggling with trying to get more studio work done at the moment. But I do have plans to go back to Melbourne at some stage and to live there, because I really can't afford Sydney's rent either. But anyway, enough about that. I'm going to go through in this video a couple of things that I think I've improved on and what I think I still need to improve with. I'm going to go through some of my work and every week from the 52-week project, and you guys can see hopefully how I've progressed, and just kind of make it a bit of a cruisy kind of video for you all. I know it's not best technically. I mean, I'm doing handheld video today because I really didn't have a lot of time today, but also yeah, I just kind of felt like doing it for this video. I think it's a bit more of a cruisy video anyway. Although my next 52-week project is going to be like this as well. I'm going to film that directly afterwards and show you guys another photo shoot from LA. But I really hope you guys enjoy this video and see how much you can improve within the span of about 12 to 13 weeks, because that's how long I've been doing the 52-week project for so far this year. And it's good to see how far you can come within a couple of months from just shooting once a week and consistently producing work. So I'm pretty excited to show you guys my progress, but anyway, we'll get straight into it. I'm going to show you guys on the computer now some of my work from the last few months. So guys, I'm going to go through my photo shoots since the beginning of the year now. So there's about, I think, roughly 13 or so in total so far. And the first one of the year that I did was with Rada, and I actually, looking back at these photos now, I actually wouldn't put them in my portfolio, and there's a few reasons for that. But in going through some of these images now, I just don't like them as much, particularly with the editing. I can see I've gone way overboard with the skin retouching automatically just from looking at these photographs. So that's a really big no-no for me, and it's something that I wouldn't put in my portfolio because I think the retouching has just gone too far. I still really love the styling that was used. I loved the clothing and the colors. But for me, I feel like they're just not getting that fashion edge so much with a couple of these shots. I felt like I was quite rushed on the day, and I think it shows in some of the photographs. I still like the photographs, but I feel like they're not going to be in my portfolio this year because since then I've taken really better shots. I think it was a good learning curve doing this shoot, but unfortunately for me, I'm not as in love with those photos as I first was earlier in the year. And I think this happens with a lot of my photo shoots, unfortunately. As you go along, you do tend to realize after a few weeks or months that you can do better and that you want to improve, and it's maybe not as wonderful as you first thought. But yeah, my general thoughts on these images is that I still like them, but yeah, unfortunately they're not portfolio material in my opinion. So the next photos I'm going to show you guys is Mary Jane's photo shoot that was in Hong Kong. And I still actually really like some of these shots. I think they're they're pretty decent. They're a little bit different to what I usually do, and I think the tones are a little bit different as well. I do particularly like this black and white shot still. Although I do think even with some of these, the retouching is a little bit overboard with skin retouching in particular. And I think that probably there were things that could have been done better on this day. I think in terms of me shooting outside more with these shots, it was a bit of a miserable day, but I mean, I feel like I could have gotten more like this and with this particular backdrop, which I ended up loving in the end. So I do kind of wish that I'd done a lot more shooting outside. There's maybe a couple of photos here that I'd put in my portfolio. Some of the outdoor shots I really like, and the black and white one that I specified before, I still really like that. I think some of these ones at the end though, the tones are just kind of off for me. I don't like them as much as I first did. But overall, I do still like the shots. I just think that there's maybe not as much cohesion here as what I would have probably hoped for in this shoot. And this photo shoot was the shoot that I did in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. And I actually still like quite a few of these photos. I think I could potentially put a few in my portfolio. Although once again, I'm still not 100% on the skin editing on a few of the photos. That one's not too bad, but there's a few here that the skin editing is a little bit soft. I do still really like the colors and the tones that I used here for these photos. And I do have a lot of sentimental reasons for loving these photos because I just had such a great day and Ho Chi Minh City was really cool to photograph in and around. And I do like some of the shots still. I probably would have been a little bit more prepared with styling on the day. I think that's one thing I would have wanted to improve with this shoot. There's going to be probably a couple of shots here though that I would use in my portfolio, and that's probably due to the model's amazing modeling skills on the day. And I thought she was just amazing. She did really well, and I think that helped produce some pretty good photos from the day. So still really like these photos, although I think I have a fair way to go here with styling and giving more of a street vibe. I think with the clothing would have been cool, but something to keep in mind for next time when I do a street style shoot. And these photos are from Greta's shoot in London. So these ones I think are really nice portraits, and I think I got some really interesting images out of this shoot, and I had a really set top 10 I remember with this particular shoot. I just really knew when I had the shot with Greta, which was great because I didn't have to go through a million different photos to try and find the ones that I wanted. So I think there's a few here that are really nice. I'm not sure how many I would put in my portfolio because I feel like they're just kind of like a basic street style shoot, but it was great for just practice and producing work consistently. And I really liked working with Greta because she had really good modeling skills and she was easy to direct, and I just really liked the location as well. And I think it really gave it that nice autumn kind of feeling that I was after with the particular shoot. So I think there's probably things I could have improved on here looking back now, and I would have probably been a little bit more prepared once again with a lot of the styling on my overseas photo shoots, but unfortunately it was just kind of not, it was sort of out of the question with how much I was able to carry with me in terms of clothing overseas. So but I really do like these shots still. I think that I could have just made them a little bit more fashion orientated overall. And this particular photo shoot was when I photographed my boyfriend Dan. So I think I've got a long way to go with photographing men in general, but I really did want to try for this particular week to get some of these photos of Dan and really see if I could push myself to get some interesting shots, which I think I did in the end, and I was pretty happy with how some of them turned out. I think I could have improved a little bit more here with directing Dan. I don't think I was specific enough with what I wanted in these particular shots, but I think I still managed to get some interesting ones out of that particular shoot. But yeah, I wouldn't put them in my portfolio only because it was definitely more of a practice week, as are most of these weeks. You know, it's all about improving and seeing how much I can improve in 52 weeks and what skills I can kind of try and master a little bit more with photography. So unfortunately this week, I wouldn't say a lot of these would be in my portfolio. And that goes for the week where I did my self-portraits as well, which is the next week. So these photos of me are nice, I guess. I'm not really used to taking a lot of self-portraits, and it was interesting to try and push myself for a week to do something with myself included, because I don't do a lot of self-portraits anymore. They're just not my thing, I guess. I'm so used to taking photos of other people, and posing is just a lot of the time not my thing. I think I got some interesting shots. Obviously, not really, I think, to go and put a lot of these photos in my portfolio, obviously being self-portraits. but I was glad to push myself a little bit out of my comfort zone with this one and take some kind of interesting photos when I was traveling in Morocco and Venice, and yeah, just get some different backdrops involved. I kind of had a little bit of fun doing it as well, although not really portfolio material. I think overall Lucrezia's shoot was where I started to really build on my retouching skills in terms of skin editing and actually start to refine them a little bit more using a few different techniques than what I usually do use in Photoshop. So I think that I do still like a lot of the photos from this particular shoot, and maybe one or two might go into my portfolio, we'll see. But I think this was a really good shoot for me to practice with skin editing, and I really like how I did edit the skin in these photographs, and I like that there's still a bit of texture and the highlights are still quite strong in some parts, and I just really like how it ended up turning out and the colors. I think I was a little bit more controlling with how the coloring and toning looked in these images, and I still really like that effect that I brought to those pictures. I think there's probably, like I said, one or two photos here that I would use in my portfolio, and they'd probably be one of the portrait ones like this one, or even maybe this one here I really still love. So I think there's probably a little bit of room for improvement on the style of the shoot, and the backgrounds were really, really hard. I remember being in Rome at the time and trying to find some cool and interesting backdrops in the area that we were in was a little bit hard because it was a bit more of a modern area and it didn't have as many older style buildings with cool with really cool colorings or anything like that. So it was a little bit difficult. A few more location scouting tactics would have been great there. But yeah, I did enjoy the shoot, and I think this is where I did start to improve with my retouching. Now, I actually happen to think Jessica's shoot in Rome was the point where I really started to improve with my fashion element in photographs. And like I said, I'm still improving all of this as I go along throughout the year, but I'm noticing the differences in certain shoots so far this year that have sort of like picked up with my retouching or picked up with my photography skills. And going through this particular shoot, I really feel like there was more of a fashion element in these shots, and I think it was just a combination of some good backdrops, a great model, and I think I directed well during this particular shoot. And I would probably have some of these photos in my portfolio today. In particular, I really still love the one at the end here where she's crossing the road. I think that's a really fashion-like shot, and something that I definitely wanted to get out of the 52-week project was more of a fashion element in my photos. So I definitely feel like this was the turning point for me this year in trying to get that more and more in a lot of my shots. So with Anna's shoot, I felt like I took a little bit of a step backwards with this particular shoot. I felt like my planning was really not on point. I really should have looked ahead at maybe hiring a studio or something on this particular day. Sweden was very, very cold in the winter, and being there at least on a sunny day was great, but it was very cold. There was snow, and it was to the point where it was very, very freezing. You know, your hands are out in the cold all the time shooting, and you just kind of get a little bit lazy with the shots, and I felt like that's how this particular shoot went. I felt like I didn't direct as well as I should have, and these shots maybe did take a bit of a step backwards in terms of a fashion element. I just wasn't prepared, and I think that's kind of clear from some of the photos. However, I really do like this photo still of Anna, and a couple of these shots, I think they're still kind of cool, but I wouldn't say that most of these would be in my portfolio. I wouldn't probably say any of them at this point would be. But it's a learning curve, and I think every shoot that I do, you know, I tend to look back on it a couple of months, couple of weeks later, and then be like, you know, nah, it's not good enough. I need to do better. So I am quite hard on myself with a lot of these shoots, but it's generally how I like to improve as well, and how I know I can improve is always by looking back and self-evaluating, basically. And here's a few more of Anna in this folder. I think I had a few extras of her shoot put into Nellie's photo shoot folder, which is the one I'm going to talk about next. So Nellie's shoot was also probably not as well organized as I hoped it to be. I think I needed to do a lot more with preparation and styling and all the rest of it. It was just a very simple street style shoot, and a lot of these shots would not be going in my portfolio either, but I do like how they turned out, and I think that Once again, I was doing the skin editing quite well in these. I think I was leaving a lot of the texture intact, and that was really something that I wanted to improve on. So these were all really good retouching practice for me. Even though maybe some of the photos I wouldn't put in my portfolio, I still think every photo shoot is a learning curve, and you can always get something positive out of a photo shoot. And I think that both of the shoots that I did in Sweden were great overall, and I had a lot of fun on them. So that was the main thing, and I managed to refine my skills out of those. Stephanie's shoot in Vancouver was also a really great shoot where I think I started to improve a lot more with the fashion element once again. And although I didn't really have a lot of the styling on preparation sorted beforehand, I think that just in general, I was able to direct Stephanie really well. And on this particular day, I remember being really good with directing her, and she was really good at taking direction as well. And I just think some of the photos turned out quite well. And I think they're just starting to get that fashion element in them. You know, I've got a long way to go, like I said before with that, but it's starting to appear in some of these shots, and that's what I want to see. That's what I wanted out of this project. So it's great. So Tiang's shoot was one of my favorites so far. I think it could possibly be in my top 3 that I've done this year so far. And I just loved her shoot. It was such amazing locations in LA to shoot around, and I really feel like the fashion element started to appear quite a bit in these shots. She was an amazing model. She took direction so well. And I think everything just came together on this shoot. I think, you know, once again, I've got that problem with taking a lot of pretty photos, which, you know, pretty is nice, but I really do need to get that fashion edge happening with my photographs. And I'm still getting there slowly, but I mean, it was just such a great shoot, and I really do feel like some of these shots will be in my portfolio for a little while, and really good street style kind of shots to put in there, I think, for the time being. And I was really happy with the end result overall. So I think this was a really big leap from my previous shoots that I'd done on my trip. And I was really happy with how everything turned out overall. And then we have Anna's shoot, which I would say is probably in my top 3 as well for the entire few months I've been photographing so far. And she was also just such a good model, and everything came together. The styling that she provided was amazing. I felt like she took direction really well. And I just loved the end look with a lot of these photos. They will be in my portfolio also for a while. And it's really good to sort of finish the quarter on a bit of a high as well, and know that your last couple of shoots have been some of your best. And that's always nice to know that you're really getting there and things are improving. And I just really loved how this shoot went overall. I was so happy with the end result. I really think that the fashion element's starting to come through with my work. I do need to keep pushing ahead with it though, and stop taking so many pretty photos. It's really hard for me to get out of that mindset, but I think with the right model as well, I think when you've got a model that's not afraid to try different expressions, like facial expressions and different poses, and really listen to some of your direction, it always helps. And sometimes that does come with having a more experienced model overall, but I think it can be achieved with a bit of good direction as well. So I'd have to say my top 3 shoots would be Anna's, Jiang's, and also Stephanie's. I feel like those 3 shoots, my last 3 for this quarter, have been my absolute favorite so far, and I'm going to be using photos from those shoots in my portfolio. So I think that was what I wanted to get out of this year, is to get some portfolio work, some new work, and be consistent. So I think I'm getting there overall. I think my retouching skills are improving with skin in particular, and I also think that the fashion element is coming through. It's coming through slowly, but it is coming through with some of my work, which is good to see. And I'm really pleased with it overall. And I'd really love to hear, if you guys are doing the 52-week project, what do you think you're improving on this year? Or even if you're not doing the 52-week project, what do you feel like you're really improving and striving for this year with your own work? Because I'd really love to hear what everyone else is struggling with in photography and retouching, and what they'd like to improve on as well. But yeah, for me, the 2 main things are retouching skin and the fashion element. I really want both of those things to be getting to be on point for the rest of the year, but we'll just see. It's all a learning process, and I'm super happy with how I've improved so far from the beginning of the year to now. And I'm actually going to show you guys the top 5 photos from the first shoot of the year, and then the top 5 photos from the last shoot of the year, and you guys can compare and see if you think I've improved a little bit or not. Hope you guys really enjoyed looking through my work and seeing the bit of progress I think that I have made. As I said, there's a few things that I still need to improve on, but I think it's doable, and I can definitely see myself improving more and more as the year goes on, as long as I stay consistent and keep up with the project in general. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do, and I will see you next time. Bye!